Pesto, Bolognese, panettone, Parmigiano. Where does it all come from? Italy, right? But where in Italy? And is it equally delicious everywhere? And why should you care? Well, in this video, I want to teach you exactly where they come from so that next time you order them, you know exactly what they should have. And if you're in Italy, where to order them from. Because this, my friends, will make the difference between tasting a copycat or the best representation of that dish. Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Chef Sabrina. I teach you cooking and baking techniques and give you a lot of really cool information about food. So if you're into that, please consider subscribing and ring the bell. And let's get started. So Italy is really heaven for any foodie or chef or cook or anybody that loves to eat. But they're very regionally oriented. Their cuisine can be divided by region. And actually, when I used to teach in Italy, we used to have a 3-month program just teaching the cuisine of every single region in Italy because it's so wide, it's so complex, and it actually changes even within the region between city and city. Now, I want to teach you where all the dishes that you already know come from because honestly, this will make a big difference when you order them because a lot of people don't know how to make that dish because it's not in their region. And this sounds ridiculous because anybody can make shrimp and grits or anybody can make Manhattan clam chowder, but is it really like that? And is it better when you go to the place where it's from? Of course it is, because within that place, region, or space, geographic space, there are a lot of ingredients that grow there that make that dish special. And so because Italy is such a regionally oriented country, the ingredients that grow within each region really determine the dish that is traditionally from there. Now, I divided Italy into north and south. Now, please bear with me. It doesn't matter where you research, where the north and the south ends or begins. It really depends on who you ask. So you'll find a lot of information online that says that there is a north, a center, a south, and it's usually pretty accurate and equally the same, the information that you get, but it really depends on who you talk to in Italy because like my family, which is from the north, has a very different opinion about where the north and the south starts and begins. Or like if you ask somebody from Tuscany or from Rome, which is kind of like in the middle, they too have a different opinion. So just bear with me. The regions I am going to talk about, or the dishes that you probably know that come from what I call the north of Italy, come from the following regions: Liguria, Piemonte, Valle d'Aosta, Lombardia, Trentino Alto Adige, Friuli Venezia Giulia, Veneto, Emilia-Romagna, and Toscana, or Tuscany. Okay, so we're gonna start with the dishes that you already know that come from those regions over there. And then in another video, I'm going to make the dishes from the south. So dish number 1, pesto. And pesto alla Genovese is the traditional name, and Genova is in Liguria. Genova is the city. And the traditional ingredients is just basil, raw pine nuts, not toasted, some garlic, Parmesan cheese, and extra virgin olive oil, and salt. That's it. Maybe you can add some black pepper. But it's very, very simple. If you want to learn how to make that, let me know in the comments below because I can make a video about pesto. But another important thing is that the basil used in Liguria is actually tiny. The leaves are so small. There are not huge basil leaves like the ones that you find in the south of Italy, for example, which can be like the size of my head. And in the south of Italy, the basil is really spicy. But in the north, in Liguria, it's very, very delicate. So it becomes a very delicate sauce. And it's not loaded with garlic. It just has a hint of garlic to perfume the sauce. And the important thing is that it is actually added to your pasta when the heat is off. So right at the end, when you boil your pasta, you put it in your saute pan, you start sauteing, and you either with a very low heat or with the heat off, you add your pesto because you don't want to cook that basil because it's so delicate, so thin, yet you can bruise it and then make a bitter pasta. And then the traditional type of pasta used for pesto is called trofie. And the traditional actual dish, believe it or not, has green beans and potatoes. So it's pasta, green beans, potatoes, and then your pesto. Bet you didn't know that. Let's move to the region of Lombardia. What is Lombardia famous for that you might already know? Panettone, traditional for Christmas time, right? Delicious, amazing, yeasted, super rich, full of fat and goodnessly sugary bread that's fermented for 36 hours. I mean, the process is super long, but it's incredible, and it comes from Lombardia. And then the other thing that you probably already know is risotto alla Milanese. And then one thing about risotto. Risotto should be eaten in the north of Italy. please, if you go to the south of Italy, do not order risotto, please. They don't know how to cook risotto. And I'll say other things about the south that you should never order in the north. So just bear with me, watch the other videos. I'm not insulting anybody. I'm just saying risotto comes from the north of Italy, and that's where you should eat it because they know how to prepare it. They know how to make it. Okay, that's where the rice grows also. And very important rice like carnaroli and vialone nano. And carnaroli is actually the rice for risotto, not arborio, like everybody says. Italy is a very regionally oriented country, like I said. And so risotto is from the north. They know how to make it. And risotto alla milanese, anything that you hear with the word milanese comes from Milano or Milan, which is in Lombardia. So risotto alla milanese is actually made with saffron, and it's then finished with a lot of Parmesan cheese, and it is super creamy and super bright yellow. Okay. Now, in the region of Piedmont, I just want to point out a few things. That's where the very most super extra expensive white truffles come from Alba. So white truffles are from Alba, and white truffles should never be cooked, my friends. Never. You cook black truffles, not white truffles. White truffles are the ones that you just shave at the end in front of your customer and then charge them $1,000 for it. Okay? Two other things that come from Piemonte, two very important wines, Barolo and Barbaresco. Amazing, rich, full-bodied red wines. So if you're into that, I could actually make a bunch of videos about Italian wines too. Now, in Valle d'Aosta, there are really not that many dishes with a name that you might already know or that you might find traditionally in any restaurant. But in the north and also in this region, polenta is very famous. So also when you order polenta, please order it in the north of Italy. And I want you to understand something. The north of Italy used to be the one that had also a lot more money in the past. And well, I don't know if it's only in the past, but so any ingredients that has a lot of eggs, especially egg yolks, and butter and a lot of cow's milk cheese is from the north of Italy. So in the north they had a lot more money, and the pasta actually is it's a lot richer, has a lot of egg yolks. Even the gelato that is made in the north has a lot of eggs, whereas in the south it doesn't. And don't worry, I'm gonna make an entire video about gelato and ice cream, so stick around because you know that that's what I do for a living, so I have to make a whole video about that, right? But so anything that has a lot of yolks or butter or cheese, north of Italy. Same thing about polenta and risotto for Trentino Alto Adige and Friuli Venezia Giulia. A lot of polenta, a lot of risotto, a lot of heavier dishes. But there is one ingredient that is very important in the region of Friuli Venezia Giulia, and that is prosciutto San Daniele. Now, prosciutto is a cured ham, and it has been salted, so it's cured in salt. And if you want to know more about prosciutto and all the different types of prosciutto, please tell me. I'm actually gonna make some like short TikTok videos about each of the types of the prosciutto, because they're all very different. But prosciutto San Daniele is from this region, and it's a lot more mild. I think it's the more elegant, if you will, of the prosciutto or the prosciutti in Italy. It is a lot more mild. You can even see it in the color. It's softer, less salty. It is not my favorite, but it is a very important product, and it is loved by many people. I just like a little stronger flavor in the prosciutto. And now we move to Veneto, and that is where Venice is, in Veneto. And that's actually where my last name comes from. Veneto is actually known because it's on the coast. It has a lot more fish than a lot of the other regions in the north of Italy. It has a lot of cuttlefish and calamari and shrimp. The black ink that people say that comes from calamari, but it doesn't, it comes from cuttlefish. So you see a lot more seafood in Veneto than you see in the other regions in the north of Italy. Now, Tuscany. One of the most loved regions outside of Italy. Inside too, but for some reason Tuscany is super famous all over the world. Probably because of the beautiful landscape and because it has like almost all of the Renaissance art in the world. Now, Tuscany could be also considered south because of certain things that it has that already resemble dishes from the south. Like, for example, the traditional cheese is actually pecorino. And pecorino means that it's made with sheep's milk. because pecora means sheep. So pecorino, it's a sheep's milk cheese. And Tuscany is known for their pecorino, not from their cow's milk cheese like Parmigiano or all the other cheeses from the north of Italy. So that kind of hints that we're starting to get into the south, but like I said, bear with me, don't kill me if you think that Tuscany is from the south, okay? I had to draw the line somewhere. When it comes to food, there are less dishes that you already know that come from Tuscany, but some of the famous ones are ribollita, which I made a whole video about that, or actually my take on it, which is a lot faster than the actual one. Another very, very important dish that you might know is if you've seen videos or photos of people in Italy eating a huge T-bone steak like this big, enormous, that's called a fiorentina. And that is the T-bone steak coming from the cow called chianina. And chianina is the type of cow. And then another interesting fact about Tuscan food is that the bread that you taste in Tuscany is very different from the rest of Italy, or actually the rest of the world, because it has no salt. And I don't care who tells you that it is because, oh, we don't put salt in our bread because everything else that is accompanying the bread is so full of flavor that you don't need the salt in the bread. No, that's not true. It actually comes from a feud between the Kingdom of Venice and the Kingdom of Tuscany, like years and years and years ago, because Venice had the power of the salt, had the control of the salt. And so because of a feud, Tuscany ended up with no salt. So they added no salt to their bread. So their bread is, to me, pretty bland, but a lot of people love it, so don't take my word for it, just try it if you can. And then last but not least, Emilia-Romagna. And that's where my family lives now and has been living for many years. My family lives in Ferrara, a beautiful city in Italy that if you ever have the chance to visit, please do so. Emilia-Romagna is very, very rich in ingredients and dishes. So how about Bolognese? Have you heard of that before? Ragù alla Bolognese? What about lasagna? Have you heard of that? What about this little someone I have here? Parmigiano Reggiano. I'm sure that if you've seen my videos, you know I'm like crazy about this cheese. I love cheese, but to me, Parmigiano is the king of the cheeses all over the world. It's gonna look bad, so I'm not gonna do it, but I could like eat this right now in front of you. So what's another thing that comes from Emilia-Romagna? Have you seen this? Mortadella and prosciutto di Parma. And Parma is where Parmigiano and prosciutto di Parma. Parma is the city where it comes from. And Bologna is where Bolognese comes from, another city in Emilia-Romagna. As you can tell, I'm a little biased because my family is there. But it is so, so rich in ingredients. What else? Have you ever put balsamic vinegar in your salad? Balsamic vinegar comes from Modena, another city in Emilia-Romagna. Have you heard of the Ferrari before? Well, it's not, you can't eat it, probably cannot buy it, but yeah, it's from Emilia-Romagna as well. Now let's break it down. Traditional Bolognese sauce has veal, beef, and pork. It's made with those three types of meat, and then carrots, onions, and tomatoes. Basta. You can add celery too, yes. But it depends on who you ask. Now, if you want to see me making that sauce, please go ahead, let me know, because, you know, I've been seeing that sauce being made since I was like born. So I love it, love it, love it. I actually have another version made with turkey for those that have a more sensitive stomach, but it's just equally delicious. And no, don't kill me, traditionalists. It's actually good, okay? And then what is Bolognese usually served with? Tagliatelle. Tagliatelle is the traditional pasta that you serve with Bolognese sauce. And if you actually want me to make a video, just have like a video about the different pastas in Italy, I can also do that. It could actually be like a video about each region because there's so much to talk about. But a video about just the pastas in Italy would be really cool. And that pasta, tagliatelle, is actually made with a lot of eggs. And then also lasagna is basically a version of tagliatelle alla bolognese, but it's baked in the oven. You make sheets of pasta, which you actually can see me building in my video about how to cook fresh pasta. So lasagna is made with just sheets of pasta and bolognese sauce and bechamel. and then Parmesan cheese, of course. So when you want a traditional lasagna, it doesn't have ricotta, it doesn't have garlic, it doesn't have like lasagna la Bolognese, like the traditional lasagna, that's what it has. Okay, so remember that this is a two-part video. Okay, this is the north, and then in my next video I'm gonna talk about the south. Some of my favorite dishes come from the south actually, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and let's enjoy Italian cuisine together.